Solving quadratic equations by factoring. A quadratic equation is any equation having this form: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. A is not equal to 0. If it were, this would be linear. Your highest power of a quadratic equation is going to be a degree 2. Example 1. X squared minus 8x plus 12 equals 0. So your first step is to set the quadratic expression equal to 0 if it is not already. And that is done here. So your second step is to factor. In this case, we were factoring a trinomial. Now, if we have the product of two quantities equaling 0, then we can set each of those factors equal to 0 to make the equation true. So set each factor equal to 0. And then solve each equation. And we have two solutions for this problem. Example 2. 5x squared minus 3x equals 0. Already set to 0, so we factor out the x. In this case, is the way that we can factor. And then we set each factor equal to 0. And then solve each of those equations. So this one obviously already solved. And then this would be my answer here by adding 3 and dividing by 5. Example 3. Negative 2x squared plus 32 equals 0. So how can I factor in this problem? It's already set to 0. I can factor out a negative 2. Which then reveals a difference of squares. And so now I'm going to set each factor equal to 0. Of course, I'm not going to set negative 2 equal to 0. That doesn't make sense. It's not ever going to be 0. So the relevant factors are the ones with variables in it. So either x plus 4 equals 0 or x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals negative 4 or x equals positive 4. Example 4. 2x squared plus 5x equals 3. So on this problem, we are not equal to 0. So the first step would be to subtract 3 from both sides and set the problem equal to 0. And the next step would be to factor. So we're looking at a trinomial, and lead coefficient is not 1. And it can't be factored out. You can use your method of choice here: slide and divide, guess and check, factor one way or another, and then set each factor equal to 0. And solve each equation. Example 5. X plus 3 times x plus 18 equals 6x. So this one's deceiving at first. It almost seems like it's ready to be set each factor equal to 0, but we're not equal to 0 over here. So we actually need to multiply all of this out and then subtract the 6x so that we are equal to 0, combine our like terms, and refactor. So we double distribute to get this. And then I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides. So 6x from here is going to give me 0, and 6x from this like term is going to give me a 15x. So I now have this trinomial to factor. And so now is the part where we are now refactoring, like I said, since it was already it was factored, but just not set equal to 0. That was the problem. So now we figure out what multiplies to 54 and adds to 15. And we are going to set each of these factors equal to 0. So x equals -9 or x equals -6.